According to the Small Business Association, 30% of new businesses fail during the first 2 years being open. 50% fail during the first 5 years. Hi, my name's Jeremy Tank. I live outside beautiful Seattle, Washington. And I'm a brand artist, consultant, and speaker. Over the last 2 decades, I've helped several $100 million companies build brands for aesthetic dentistry, body movement, hospice care, weight loss, and a ton more. I love discovering the unique magic inside every product, service, and brilliant idea. I believe small businesses are the key to real economic growth. So we're sitting down with interesting people, asking questions, listening, and revealing brilliant nuggets of knowledge you can use to build your standout brand. How this works, I have 4 coloring books. I'm actually taking one of them because I'm working on a piece that's continuing forward. So you get your choice of, so you get Japanese styles. Yeah. We have abstract and geometric, which seems to be really popular, and tranquility coloring.
Oh, that's what I need.
So you can have your choice. The Japanese one has little pieces, so you can get through like a couple different things. Most of the rest of these are like one big design. But color it however you like. And here's the deal, because we're going to start this right now. This is my fancy pants timer.
Timer?
Yep. We're going to set 1 hour on there.
Okay, good.
We don't get to see it. Only the camera sees it, so we're not supposed to be looking at the camera.
Okay.
Which
will be weird for me, because I'm used to like, look at the camera.
Right. And if you're going with that one, we'll go ahead and set those over there. And this is a set of colored pencils that started with a 128 pack of Prismacolor that I got in high school.
Oh my gosh.
And have maintained them ever since and added a couple of colors here and there, a couple of packs. So there's probably like 180 colors in here.
Oh,
by all means, dig in, do whatever you want to do.
I love all the colors.
Yeah, it's the big pack. Right. And these are Prismacolors, so that means their lead is super soft.
Oh, okay.
So if it breaks, or if something, like you go to sharpen it and it breaks off in the pencil, right? That's just keep sharpening, keep working with it, because that's what happens with these sorts of things, and that's the glory of art and coloring and life in general. Things break, things don't always go the way we think, and you just have to kind of keep going with it.
Very true.
I generally think that people who have an artistic sense and an artistic personality get the idea that you have to commit to something and put it on paper and keep moving forward, and there's no Command Z, there's no undo. You just keep figuring out how to make it work.
Right.
So that's part of the fun of this.
And you got
Exactly.
the elephant you're working
Yeah.
on.
So this is the one that I've been working on now.
Okay, very nice. And this is what I'm gonna do.
I love it.
Which kind of has a financial joy aspect. I want to tell you about this later, because this has that same pattern.
Oh, it so does. What is that?
This?
So tell me about it now.
Okay, so it's a 3D model, and it represents 30 days. So
Okay.
I'm bending time, and I think spreadsheets are kind of boring, a lot of boring.
Come on.
And
Boom.
I was actually doing an adult coloring book way back when, probably 4 years ago now. I was listening to my sales coach, and he was like, we all have a track to run on. We all have a track to run on. And I was literally doodling this flower similar to this one. Well, I think this might be an underwater sea urchin. I'm going to call it a flower. And he was like, we all have a track to run on. And they started to look at sales like a track field. Do you ever run track and field?
To be honest, no. My
But they're round, right?
I weigh less now than I did in high school or any of those points. So
That's crazy.
no, I didn't do a lot of running.
Yes. But in Financial Joy, I talk about, which is a book I recently published, I talk about this idea of we all have a track to run on, because that's what my sales coach says, so I teach my clients that. And one of the biggest things that I realized in my own kind of money-making journey is that when you go from, being an employee, you get paid on the 1st and the 15th, and you get a big chunk of money here and a big chunk of money there. But when you're in business, you don't get paid every day if you want, right? But one of the things that I, as an artist and as a creative, would forget to do was pay attention to time. Like, how long has it gone between, sales appointments, or between asks, or between, when they actually do a money-making thing versus just a creative, fun thing. Because I tend to want to plan conferences and go kayaking and do all the fun stuff. And
Don't
so,
we all though?
Huh?
Give me the fun stuff.
I think we all do, and I think that's why a lot of people, cash flow is a big issue, and that's why so many people go out of business way sooner than they need to. It's like they're not going to do this ostrich thing, or we're not paying attention to it. Like the rhythm of our sales stuff. And a lot of my clients don't like sales to begin with. Because they're generous, they're good, they want to help.
I'm right there. I struggle with sales. It's trying to get to the mindset of shifting somebody into, you need me.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah, until they realize that they're not. It's a different part of the conversation for sure.
Sure.
But I was like, how can I make paying attention to sales fun? And I like to color. I'm like, how can I get paid to color? or doodle, right? So I call it doodling the data.
Nice.
Where you actually take, back to this.
So see, coloring with Jeremy totally sounds
That's
like perfect with you, right?
I will say
I love
that. So if you were to look at your bank statement and you were to doodle a petal on the first, like anytime you make money, you would doodle on the exterior of the circle. Anytime you spend money, you doodle on the inside. So you start to see this flow of money in, money out, money in, money out.
Oh, I love that visualization.
Versus like, I spent money, or I need to make money. Like, if you can appreciate both sides energetically, you're not coming from this, scarcity or that icky feeling.
Right, and you totally want to start to make the flower. At least, I totally see that because, okay, now we start to make like the dream weaver, the dream catcher, whatever that is, and it starts, the pattern emerges, and you realize, if I want to have that prosperity, here's the cycle that I need to maintain, and here's how I keep it rolling.
Exactly. So in the book,
I love that.
I talk about 3 types of people I see in sales. There's the snail, they're slow and steady, they're going to get there eventually. Maybe, probably not. And they're underproducing. And then there's the ostrich, and they're bold and dynamic and creative geniuses, and they just, like, budget, what? Ah! They're not paying attention to the numbers, right? So I've totally been there too. And then there's the seagull, and the seagull is confidently in the marketplace, not afraid to say, mine. Which, if you're a generous soul, asking is not easy. So I'm like, how do we make it fun to ask? Anyway, so the model, there's one model in there called the cash flow circle, which is just money in, money out. It's a representation of what already happened, which is your profit and loss statement.
Sure.
Right? So I'm like, what did I make?
And I hate those things. They're so boring.
So boring. They don't really make sense. And so that is just sort of the ostrich. Whereas the cash creator, which is like what sales, like if you were to track your sales activities, every little dot is like a conversation. A branch would be like actually the sales appointment where we talked about money. A leaf or a stem might be I actually sent the estimate, which that might be 5 days in between, depending on how busy we get, right? Could be a week or two. Should be like a day or two. I mean, not should, but... And then a petal is the actual payment, which again, that can be 15, 30, 60 days later, depending on our terms.
True. So true.
And so the cash creator is designed for the snail, who's they're just talking. They're like, this one guy, like they're like focused on one person. It's like, there's 50 people around you that probably need your services. And, put your head out the sand and sped up a little. So that's the stuff
okay, I hear you. Pull my head out of the sand.
Right. But I was like, how do I make sales interesting for creatives? And that's where it's just a 3D printer, but there's doodling things in the book where you get it.
Well, and it feels like a spirograph to me too, which, I mean, I love that because I loved all the little patterns that you can make with that whole idea.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If we could turn financial spreadsheets, financial documents into pictures, what would they look like? So, do you track your credit score very often? It's okay if you don't.
Not lately.
So, it's fun if you turn it into a mountain range and you plot your ups and downs. So whether you do it yearly or monthly, you'll start to see, oh. But if people can make that connection between what increases credit versus what lowers it, then you realize, oh, this is a game I can win. It's not actually that hard or scary.
Yeah.
But that's where, like, I've taught financial planners the financial joy thing with the profit and loss, and they're like, I have never seen it explained so quickly. I'm like, it shouldn't be rocket science.
Okay.
It should be easy and fun.
I am remiss because we just jumped right into this.
Because we know each other.
Right, but see, you should probably introduce yourself for the camera.
Who am I?
Who are you?
So my name is Marcelle Allen. I'm the author of a book called Financial Joy, and I own a company called Dreamosity, which is a social media training and management company. I do video editing, Pinterest, graphics, blog post support, all sorts of fun stuff. I create wisdom guides, which are these cool things over here, which I think all marketers should have on hand. What else do I do? Oh, and I'm a laughter coach. I help people develop their mix of humor so they don't suck on camera.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's my second company that I used to preach video. You need to be on video, and I led a meetup all about video. But then I realized, not everybody should be on a camera.
Some people should probably not be on camera.
Yeah, so LAF Tech came about. I pulled the curriculum out of a really smart guy's head, a bunch of comedians, and now we're training people to be more confident on stage. I think improv means Toastmasters.
I totally get that.
Mm-hmm. And we're Toastmasters, I love Toastmasters.
They're a great organization.
They don't really care about sales. They're not there to make you profitable. They're there to make you confident.
Yep.
You can be confident and broke. I don't know if you know that, but a lot of people can be confident and broke.
Yep.
And I really just saw a need for it to go further than,
By the way, Prismacolors. Side note.
I like the glittery ones.
Okay.
Metallic.
That's the reason I wanted to actually mention some of this. Prismacolors are good at a couple of things. They're really good at layering colors because the soft lead lets you combine and texture and color so you can blend really easily one to the next just by pressing a little harder or softer. But the metallics, because they are made metallic by tiny flecks inside the lead, right, they don't actually feel metallic unless you're pressing really, really hard, and at that point you lose some of the effect of the color.
So it's different than my colors I have over there?
So?
The ones on the shelf, the Crayola Twister ones?
Oh yeah, they're a little different than that.
Yeah, I like them. So do you color a lot?
I love coloring.
Yes.
It really gets to the artistic core of me that I've been for a while, and I find it really relaxing and stress relieving. And I've explained this a couple times now that I think that these sorts of situations with the camera rolling and doing this are a lot easier because it activates more parts of your brain and distracts you from overthinking, and you can be much more authentic.
See, that's how I feel about reviewing your financial statements. You're relaxed. You're not scared. You're like, oh, it's kind of interesting. Because the patterns are there, but it's so true that when we can relax, we're not in that anxious state of forcing it or avoiding it. Well, that's good. So when you do your brand, what do you call them? Brandscapes?
Brandscapes.
Do you color for those?
No, most of that kind of work is just in the computer matching up. It's mostly computer work. It's because there's a lot more research that goes into that than anything. Finding out what is in the market, finding out what pings in the market, and a lot of that is just reverse engineering different aspects and pulling it together. This is much more like, how can I just do something for me that's fun, and I'm not stressed about selling or being. I can just enjoy.
Well, it's like you bring in the talk therapy side of it, where it's kind of just cool.
Yeah.
Thinking about my pattern too hard.
Oh, don't do that.
See, this is where I'm like, I geek out. I always say there's data behind your dreams. But my sister's like, no, you gotta know the data behind your dreams. Because it's not just enough for it to be there. You have to know what your own data is. And so I'm trying to make it symmetrical, and I'm already off balance. That's okay. It's not going anywhere, right? Except for maybe my wall. Maybe in a blog post when I reshare about this experience.
Well, and I gotta be completely honest, nobody has finished a whole one in an hour.
Well, now it's a challenge.
So, no, because here's the thing. Let's do it again. Let's come back in a couple of weeks. Let's come back, when you have something else going on, you're like, hey, I want to share this with you, but also I want to color some more.
Right.
Like, I kind of look at it like, this is just a great way to keep building a relationship and sharing more things online and letting people get to know you and me and the whole thing.
So do you see yourself as an interviewer or more of a documentarian?
I'm a documentarian.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I see that.
Because, like, I know a little bit about your Dreamosity business, but I don't know a lot about that, and I really want to learn about that.
Gosh, it's so fun.
Yeah.
Most of the times. Unless I'm in trouble and late. It's not as fun.
It's true with a lot of things.
Right? Yeah, no, I actually started Dreamosity about 10 years ago now. I quit my corporate job at Boeing, and I had a little bit of a roundabout way of getting to Dreamosity, but I asked my dad, I was like, isn't there a company out there that supports the dreamer? Somebody that doesn't quite know what they want, but they want, like, help figuring it out. And he's like, no, honey, get a real job. I was like, I'm going to start that company. And so I was at this event in, where was it? Just outside of LA, kind of neuro-linguistic programming type of event, kind of life coaching event.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I realized
that
my brain was like a search engine. I was like, okay, that makes sense. Because I had gotten into some mental health issues with my brain, and I was freaking out for various reasons. And what happens in our brain is we start to spin on a word, but we don't always realize that we can change what we spin on. And so I had to learn to, spiral upwards. And I learned that our brain's like search engines. So then I learned about search engines through this blogging course I took. And then I had a bunch of odd jobs in between there. But eventually I started a blog called Dreamosity. And it was the word mash of dreams plus curiosity plus generosity. And it became, how do we be more generous with technology? Because I was helping people edit blogs and do some blog support stuff. I used to transcribe business plans for an investor community I was a part of. And it kind of morphed into more blogging, more social media. And now, 10 years later, it's a full agency. I've got my own book out there, which I'm really excited about because it like so many of my clients and just people I've seen, it's like if sales isn't a focus, they're out of business, right? And that's why the statistics are so high that people go out of business. It's because they're not focusing on their sales.
Well, okay, let's be honest. A lot of people don't know who they're selling to or why they're selling.
There's that too.
And I run into that a lot.
Well,
this is what I do, so go sell me.
Right. So one of my first or early clients, his name was Paul Hoyt. He was a business coach, and he had this framework, and it basically said there's only 7 things you need to run a successful business: leadership, sales, marketing, product development, financial management, operations and admin, customer service. Is that 7?
I lost count.
But what he was telling me, he's like, most people suck with marketing and sales, or sales and financial management. That's what I found. So financial joy is a result of how do you make money in sales like a fun thing versus like this anxious, fearful thing. And so the book was totally inspired by him. And then that sales coach conversation of like, we all have a track to run on. And it's like, well, how do we improve the track? How do we visualize the track? How do we coach people? Because I taught a 70-year-old woman right before I wrote the book how to interpret her P&L statement. She didn't know. Part of me was like, how the hell have you been in business for so long? And then the other part of me was like, let me help you. Like, let me make this easy to talk about. And if I could teach it, then I know it. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I couldn't teach it. And I'm like, then you don't really know it. And I want people to get to that level. Other business coaches, other web developers, other marketing, like, if we can't talk about it, how do we then quantify our ROI? Or is that even our goal? And that's where with social media, I always try to get a 12-month contract with someone because there's not much I can do in 1 month for someone.
I know.
But sometimes the month's goal is let's build community. Let's build credibility. Let's build, creativity. Let's get more sales. Let's build a new event, and so it changes, and that's where it's like, even if we're trying something new, we still need to look at the other parts work. And so I've made it fun. My friend Karen Ray, she's like, you've socialized the conversation of money. I'm like, makes sense, because I'm a social media manager. Like, I don't want it to be individual. I want it to be social, because even for me, if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it.
Sure.
And I think those bookkeepers, they like us to look at the reports. Do you have a good bookkeeper?
I don't.
Yeah.
I honestly, I stumble by myself right now. And,
really?
I do mean stumble. Like,
Okay.
I admit that wholly. I am not a great business person.
Mm-hmm.
I am working hard to learn.
Yeah.
But,
have you ever had a sales coach?
Nope.
How about an accountability coach?
Nope.
I would so be in trouble if I didn't have a sales coach or someone holding me accountable. There's some weird data piece that says, I can't remember it exactly, but the minute we're accountable to someone else for our financial or our sales goals, we have a lot more like skin in the game, and we're more willing to actually do what we say we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if we're not accountable to anybody, we just kind of flounder.
Sure.
And floundering is not fun unless you're on a lake somewhere. It's a cool in a tube. I know. Being goofy.
That's fun.
But yeah, but I didn't go into this because I knew the math of it. I actually didn't know it. And I was like, accountants aren't making it very fun for me, so I gotta try something else.
No, I this isn't about me.
But we can talk about you.
But I struggle with this stuff because I'm good at my stuff.
I should show you the book.
But as you know, like, you have your talents, and when you go to open a business, you have to learn 3,000 other talents.
Yep. But you only need to learn 7 more, and that's what I liked about Paul Hoyt is he says leadership, which you know leadership, how to have a vision, how to set goals. Now, are people good at setting goals? Debatable. Sales is tricky.
I'm great at setting goals.
Good.
I'm okay at sales.
Yeah.
It's the marketing part where the point. You know, if you follow Seth Godin's thing of, marketing is changing someone's belief.
Sure.
From, they don't need something to they need something, or convincing them or showing them that you bring something to the table that helps them shift their life.
Yeah.
Sometimes I struggle with that because I'm a brand guy.
Yeah.
And we live in an age of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And people think that if they just market enough, then their brand will be fine.
Yeah, and that's not always true. Although I used to hate advertising. I grew up pretty Christian, pretty squeaky clean, and I used to hate like any Nike logo or like Coca-Cola thing. I hated it. I thought branding and advertising was awful. And then I met Les Brown, and I realized he was my first client where I ran ads for him. And because of his dreams were so big, so beautiful, I had to learn advertising because I couldn't just talk to this local marketplace. I had to get to a much bigger space. Mm-hmm. And it was fun because he shifted and he wasn't even an advertising guy, right? He's just a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that advertising can help us smaller guys and gals be better.
Punch above their weight class.
Yeah, like with this.
Yeah.
Like most people I talk to, they hang out down here and they're talking to the same 100 people.
Okay. I love that she has a moment to bring out the chart and actually show it off.
I always talk about my chart.
I love it.
I can't get very far.
No, I love it.
Whereas like advertising, it moves you this way. So whether you're here, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Branding moves you this way, and
right.
That's where you help people look actually expert level versus rookie.
Right.
I would say a random's rookie and intentional is impressive. Because if you're like that's what I love about your brandscapes. They're so intentional and they're so cohesive, and they've got this energy that just speaks to their
who they want to be.
Who they want to be, and that's
the thing. Not who they are, who they want to be, and that's the tricky part.
That is the tricky part. I have a lot of clients that come in sometimes they don't have the logo or they don't know their branding guidelines, they don't know their colors, and that's like, oh boy. Oh boy. And so I do a lot of branding work.
Uh-huh.
But I know that's not what's going to pay their bills. It's going to be the sales plan.
Yeah.
But they need to go together because the sales plan with crappy graphics is really hard to execute.
Yeah, if you look like the used car salesman and you're trying to sell a premium anything, and let's face it, everybody wants to sell a premium something. Everybody inside feels that what they present is premium.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's fun. I use pictures to help connect the understanding.
And I totally resonate with that.
Well, and part of it's for my own understanding, right? Because I'm like, I got into this job. I mean, it wasn't a job, it's a business, but I didn't know all the things. I'm now attracting clients that are way smarter than me about various things, but I'm learning, and then I piece it together, and then I have to clarify the concept with a visual, otherwise it just floats out of my head.
Sure.
Do you get to create many logos or actual like infographics and like icons in what you're doing?
Me personally, no.
Do you have
And I'm actually grateful for that. I have 3 or 4 artist contractors that I work with that I've known. A couple of them I actually did my master's program with. One of them, she's in New Hampshire. I actually worked with at my pharmaceutical company like years ago, and we still just keep in touch. And I'm like, hey, do you want to do this work? Hey, do you want to do this? Because I know she has great
Sure.
quality, and I just reach out to them. That's why I focus like on the big picture
Messaging,
brand stuff
sure.
and the messaging and that feel. And then I'm like, okay, here's what we're going for, you guys. So now I need templates, and I need PowerPoints, and I need and then my team like pulls it all together so that I can focus on the other stuff. Because otherwise, I don't think I would ever leave my house.
So you're doing a lot of this work, right? Print design, logos, envelopes, PowerPoints.
So staging. So right now, we're doing a lot of like a couple of these, which I'd love to do more of these because I love really interesting logos and really modern logos. We do a little bit of print design. We do some websites, some cover images.
Are you into memes yet? Like meme templates?
Not really.
Dude, they're marketable. They are.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
See, I haven't had a call for that.
If they're on social, they need content.
Well, I mean, I'm doing like thematic themes, like and dropping them into.
Thematic themes.
Well, for example, my view of Instagram is sort of like a magazine, and so I like to have 3 or 4 different types of content, and each of those types of content have their own theme template that goes with it. So we'll go ahead and develop the templates and then drop them into Canva so that people can just go boom, 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 and fit it all together.
So I go a step further with my clients. I'll listen to them until they say something brilliant. Like we'll be on a coaching call, and I have these little square Instagram shaped things.
Well, I love your little.
And I'll
That's
capture
so cool.
their little micro brilliant moments for their Instagram because they don't know when they say something amazing. I'm like, that's so good. Like I've never heard that so clear.
When I do my strategy sessions, that's when we usually get a lot of those things because we're just going through everything possible.
Yeah.
And
do you record your strategy sessions?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They're recorded. They're written down. They're captured everywhere.
Nice.
And then so print design like business cards, letterhead, that kind of stuff. Some brochures, flyers.
Good. So that came apart.
And in my last career, I did a lot of trade show things. So I'm.
Oh, you do the big cool stuff.
Yeah, like
nice.
for Metasys, I did like the 50 by 50 display. All of the visual graphics and that the keynotes that acted like like a video thing, as well as like these giant banners that went across the whole booth.
Nice.
So I love doing that stuff. That's so experiential. You walk right into it and you're just bowled over by the brand.
Part of it now. That is cool. I haven't done many print things yet other than our LAF Tech. We've got a big LAF Tech banner that we put behind our stage. But that whole discovery deck came across. So when I was working with Les Brown in California, I came back to Washington and I was like, oh my gosh, like this state is light years behind in terms of like social media innovation and social media content.
Which is ridiculous considering we have how many companies here like Amazon and Microsoft and
they're high tech, but they're not necessarily collaboratively socially high. Like it's different. They haven't all gotten out of that frozen. What do they call it? The Seattle freeze. It's like people need to wake up and like super collaborate. California is way more collaborative.
Yep.
But one night with a glass of wine, and a set of note cards. I had a brainstorm. I'm like, why can I?
The best way to attack anything.
I know. I was like, why can I not get this, small client to 100 fans, let alone 100,000, right? Because I had this major success with him, and then I came back and I was like, oh geez, this is like they're missing a lot of pieces of the puzzle. So I had to brainstorm all the different elements of what goes into a good social media campaign. And it's different. I mean, it changes, and it's like this is already outdated because there's so much more. I don't have podcasts on there.
Oh right, podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Which this is like it's kind of like a podcast meets a video interview meets a documentary meets a art contest. Not really a contest, but I'm trying to figure out the time. Like, can I finish it?
See, that's why I turn the clock so you can't see it.
I don't know.
Because
So fast.
Don't go fast. No, this isn't a contest. You're not trying to finish it. What you're trying to do is just
I like to make pretty things.
do and be and exist.
That's where my brain was like, I need to put something on Instagram. Hopefully finish pretty picture, but maybe not. I have learned a lot about letting go over the years. You'd be surprised. Like, to realize how little control I actually have over anything or anyone. I mean, the best campaign doesn't always work. That's why there's
okay, but we build flexibility in because we know that, and we all know that we have to change and adjust with the conditions as they actually are.
True. I had a change in my contracts that Dreamosity, or that I will support you in your campaign. I will not lead your campaign. Like, they still need to go be their best salesperson.
Do you find that to be a hard thing?
And then have that conversation with them and actually say, look, you've got to sell and tell your story. Like, I can help introduce you to new people and give you more exposure, but you still need, like, I can't be a salesperson for 20 companies. I can support 20 companies.
This is still you.
Yeah, so I've had to kind of let people, you still need to know your numbers. And I want you to go out and talk to, however many people a day, depending on the goal of the project. It's like, you still need to run sales appointments. You still need to uncover their needs and actually help people, find out if you're a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that for you. I wish I could. I mean, you can do webinars, you can do a lot of other things to support it, but people still need to talk to people. That's called social media, not unsocial media. Right?
I'm going to say something right here, and it's probably going to bite me in the butt later on. I dislike social media.
Really?
Like, heavily dislike.
Tell me more.
I'm overwhelmed. Both with myself and with the amount of content being thrown at me. And I don't want to interact with it because I honestly have hit a point where I want to run away from most of it. And it is so irrelevant to my life and to any piece, and people constantly are saying things and throwing it out and pitching me and doing this stuff that they don't know me, they don't know what I'm doing, they don't take the time to investigate or to research or anything, and it's often, or it's all about them.
Yeah.
And I don't care enough about them.
I follow everything they're sharing.
Exactly.
So Tracy and I came up with a phrase the other day, internet glitter versus internet litter. And there's a lot of litter out there, just crap. People
So much.
They're like, oh, I need to post on social media, so they post. And it's like, well, what was the purpose of that?
Because they're told they have to keep posting content because they don't realize that content is meaningless unless there's actual value and nuggets in there to somebody somewhere. But when you're putting stuff out there, like, who's judging the value?
Yeah. So I tend to support people that I call remarkable leaders, right? They're visionaries, they're authors, they're coaches, they're people with a vision, but they need more support. And so I've been asking this question lately, what's the dream of your industry? And how can you support what others are looking for, right? So people aren't looking for more quotes from Abraham Lincoln. Like, we know where to find those quotes. And I think he's a wise, like, at the same time, we're looking for, like, where are we going? Like, what is the dream? And it's kind of a weird question. People look at me like I'm a strange duck. I'm like, what's the dream of your industry? And if they can't answer that, they're not industry leaders yet. They're not deep enough into the marketplace to know what people are looking for or craving, or like where's the opportunity at.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, what's the dream? Like, what's your dream? That's part of it. What's the dream of your community? That's part of it. But what's the dream of your industry? It's kind of like the Wayne Gretzky quote. If you can, if you know where the puck's going, like, that's part of the game. It's not just
where the puck's going, not
you.
where the puck is.
Thank you. And that's
just to clarify.
Thank you.
I'm not a hockey guy. I just happen to know that one.
Me too. Yeah. It's just, but this idea of, like, what's the dream of your end? Where are we going? Can you create content that supports that future place? Because then I think people would participate.
Mm-hmm.
And not be like, oh, you're just a pitch fest, or you're just, showing me your breakfast or whatever. It's like, where are we going?
So tired of food shots, food blogs, food this and that. I get it. We all got to eat.
We all have to eat. So can I ask you that big question? Like, what's the dream in the branding world? Like, what is the dream of that industry? Can your brain go that big in terms of, like,
yeah, well, I mean, I can actually.
Yeah, good.
I mean, the point,
good.
But, to do that, we actually have to break down, are we talking what's the dream of the brand world, like the branders, or the branding world? Because those are two separate dreams.
So, and this is where most of my clients, they're part of 3 industries, right? Most of them, like, say, advertising plus education plus entertainment, right? So anybody doing video now, I'm like, okay, now you're in the entertainment industry, whether
Absolutely.
they realize it or not. It's like you're not just in whatever accounting. The minute you go on video, you're now in the entertainment industry. But so most brands have 3 industries that they're part of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you can get clear on what are those 3. So for you, is design an industry, would you consider?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so design...
It's an industry that's reached commodity status.
Is branding a design?
Branding...
industry?
Branding is certainly an industry. It's not seen as an industry per se as yet.
But there's branding for all other industries.
But there's branding for every industry.
Yep.
But a lot of times branding falls into marketing.
Sure.
Or design, or both of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because branding is the thing, I can't remember the woman's name. She's the head of a marketing program at branding in New York, like the new school branding, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she says branding is active differentiation.
Oh.
So branding is anything visual or experience or business structure or anything that sets your business, your brand, apart from any other.
Mm-hmm.
The customer service, it's all of those things. And it's something that's constant and ongoing because the market keeps changing, businesses keep changing, technology keeps changing, so you have to constantly be shifting and evaluating what you're doing so that you are always standing out as different.
Yep.
Because the point of branding is to become a monopoly in your audience's mind.
Like you're the only one there?
When they think of somebody who, helps with social media, who clarifies complex concepts, they only think of you, or they think of you first.
Mm.
That's the whole point, is that branding is to distinguish you.
I should talk to you about visual leadership and my problem with that. That's what I want your brain on.
Okay.
Can I tell you about visual leadership?
Not yet.
Do you know what thought leadership is? I'm sure you've heard that phrase.
You mean like being a thought leader?
Yeah. Like there's a lot of people out there, they've got hundreds of thousands of followers, or they've got a vision, or it's not only followers, I know.
2-second pause.
Yes.
Debbie Millman, the head of that school.
Okay, there you go.
Knew it would come to me. Time in.
I feel like that word thought leader is kind of overused currently.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to differentiate how a content that's visual and useful that really, really proves expertise versus just, I wrote 8 books on a topic. A lot of people have written several books, and I'm like, but it takes me, like, if you look at the time component, like speed of consumption of content, I don't want to read 8 books. I want a infographic, a worksheet, 3-minute video, like our needs are changing.
And a lot of these people who write all the books, they've set up their daily systems, they've set up their processes, they've set up their mindset, so they set aside time, and they need to be working towards something.
Yeah.
So really, it's kind of a brain dump, and they're just constantly building towards something.
Yeah. Which is good, and I think, I don't know, so visual leadership, to me, the best example I can get is, You know when it's late at night and you want to do a recipe for food, and if you open up a book and it's all text, are you gonna do it?
Oh, heck no.
But if you open it up and there's like 6 nice photos or steps, you're like, ooh, like it's empowering. You look at the visual and you're like, I'm empowered to go through that.
To me, that is the power of design to market, to
Yes.
change the belief of I'm not interested into, now suddenly I want to engage with this content, whether it's a book or anything else. And that is the power of design to shift people into wanting to engage.
So let's bounce back to industries for a second.
Yeah.
I believe that the financial industry and the legal industry are lacking design on an epic scale.
Hugely.
Do you agree? Okay.
Yeah.
So part of this...
But a lot of that's in, their mindset and their focus is very left-brained.
Well, they're not hiring designers as frequently as they should.
Well, beyond that, though, they're hiring and selecting based on what they believe needs to be presented, not in what their audience needs to see. And that's part of that branding idea. It's not about you. Whomever you choose to serve, it has to be them. And it's not just help them, what stands out to them? How do you appeal to them? I had an accountant office. Did I tell you this story?
No, tell me.
I had an accountant office a long time ago. My very first job out of college was art director at an ad agency.
Ooh,
so I've
fun.
done the ad agency thing.
Yeah.
This guy, he loved Tuscany. And he was like, I'd like to redo my office like Tuscany and kind of like make my logo and feel like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as an accountant? Well, dude, okay, whatever makes you happy. But he did it, and people loved it, and he stood out, and it was different because he embraced this whole theme concept that, to the people who came to him, was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, they wanted that.
Yeah, it was part of the experience he provided, was sharing something he loved through his brand.
But did that, and I think part of where my hang up with visual leadership is I want it to be like self-taught, like DIY, and I don't think accountants want people to do it themselves. That's why they don't create cool how-to graphics or infographics.
Well, okay, but also...
But it'd be cool if they did.
Okay, so there was a great study that came out recently. I read about it about 4 days ago, that NASA came up with this test. It was an intelligence test. And they gave it to their astronauts, and then they're like, well, what else can we do with this? Because that's NASA, right? What else can we do with this? So they gave it to these young kids. And long story short, over time, education basically brainwashed them of the creativity that indicated high intelligence. So then we look at accountants, or we look at the engineers, and we look at people like that have gone through so much education to get this mathematical, analytical mindset, and really it has brainwashed them out of creativity, out of creative thinking, out of the things that expand options in our head into solid problem solving. So they literally don't have the capacity in their brain to see outside of that zone. It has been educated out of them.
I believe it. So, yeah, I would like...
That's not to say everybody is like that.
But in general, yeah.
But if you want to know why some of those industries are lagging behind, it's because...
That's why. They're overstudied and underplayed.
You don't know what you don't know. The story you hear in your head, the vision, the reality you perceive is just fine because it's good by you.
Yeah. So part of one of my jobs or my initiatives with the visual leadership, so I feel called to lead this movement or this, I don't know if it's a movement, but I definitely want to lead.
You should make it a movement.
Well, I feel that designers are underappreciated in the marketplace, and so one of the things is to celebrate good graphic design and educate people what that is, because a lot of people are like, it's good enough. It's like, no, that's shit. Like, but they don't know because no one's told them. Here's what.
But why?
Well, I don't know.
Okay, I do, because I've been doing this for 20 years.
Okay, tell me why then.
When I started my career, a lot of people were like, good design, it's these companies, this is what it looks like. And over time, the entry level for designers has dropped. So you can pick up a piece of software super quick and jump into it and start making things. And then you start offering services super quick. So the education of what good design is and how to create good design has actually fallen away.
So not just celebrating designers, training designers.
Right. The education system has failed to create good designers that understand typography, color, balance, symmetry, interest, focus.
So tell me if this falls in the role of a designer. So one of my biggest pet peeves is when a graphic designer sends me a file and it's, you know, eight pictures, let's say, 8 design pictures, and it all says image 1, image 2, or like it's not designed for SEO. They're not labeling their files for search engine purposes. And part of me is like, is that their job or is that somebody else's job? Because I've been taking on that job.
Technically,
but I want them to not waste their time. Technically,
that's not their job. However,
sorry.
As I see it, it's not their job. I mean, really, what's the purpose of the images?
Well, if it's a blog image, its goal is to rank on the internet.
Okay.
Right, rank and search, if that's one of the purposes, which I don't think people are considering that as a purpose. I would like them to.
Right, so 2 things there. One, if you want them to do that, then you need to educate them and set up a system and a process. This is what I expect from that. Because that's the only way you're going to get what you desire, is by making sure, here's the qualifications, here's what deliverables look like, period.
Yeah.
You know, that's that. Sometimes, as an artist, I have trouble using my out loud voice.
Because it's all in your head?
Because it's so much in my head. Because so much of what I do and I experience, honestly, is in my head.
Sure.
I work very hard to not get stuck in my head. And I'm not always successful, I admit that. The other part of it is, designers are visual. They're not thinking about the end goals a lot of time.
Yeah, they're not thinking about the words.
What they're trying to do is solve the visual problem. And really, design isn't a practitioner. Design is a mindset. Design is a problem-solution mindset of, here's the problem we have, let's examine all these options. Based on these options, what are the criteria we're judging against? Narrow that down. All right, what are the successful ones here? Narrow that down again. All right, let's make our final selections. Here's the final ones. At the end of that, that's a successful design process, technically.
Yeah.
So anything beyond that is just deliverable stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, no, if you want a system and a process to fix that, that's where you really have to share that.
Yeah. So one of my taglines is discover, create, optimize, and that's part of my optimize. I need to go back and train the designers to create better files and structures, or just do it myself. But it's like, you would think they would know, but I guess I'm assuming.
At Metasys, one of the things we did was we had a very complex SOP that we wrote. Here's what the image file name should be like. Here's the metadata that should be tagged with it. Here's the description, and it was all based on, you know, who's in the image or what primary colors or what brand it is and all of that. And I'll tell you, if you ask a designer to do that, you're probably going to get pushback, because to them that is boring, humdrum, hire an assistant.
It is for me too.
Sure.
That's where I go back to the whole, you know, the 7 things for business. Leadership, right, that's part of it. How do I fix what I identify to be broken? And
systems.
The systems, that's operations and admin, right?
Yep.
How do I get the lists and the checklists, and who can I have do those?
Yep.
So what are most of the design problems, or maybe business problems, your clients are like, they come to you and they're like, I'm a new business. What are they most excited to create, or what problem do they need to solve?
You know, a lot of times people come to me and they don't realize the problem that they need to solve.
Is that interesting?
I want a logo. I want business cards. I want packaging. Okay, who's it for? What does it need to convey? And when we start looking into all of those aspects, then they start to realize, oh, I don't know enough information to actually solve this problem.
You haven't done any research.
Right, and honestly, I tell people, like, you came to me because you needed a logo. You had your business set up 2 years ago. Maybe we should do a full branding process so that we can get you distinct in the market and do a logo that actually represents who you want to be. Because just making a logo based on whatever you are now, again, I'm not trying to aim for where you are now. I want to know, you know, where you want to be in 5 years to make sure that we can position it for that, knowing that the market is going to change and shift. And there's a good chance that 2 years from now, you're going to have a competitor that is going to try and put you out of business.
Absolutely. Interesting.
And actually, just to round back around what we were talking about earlier, what I was just saying, that's branding. Color, logos, all that's branding.
Yep.
The brand is that whole perception from the actual audience, the customers. Oh, I love them. They always represent quality. Oh, I love Audi, the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love them because they're boxy. I don't know. I don't drive Audis.
Me neither.
I like Honda because I feel like they are affordable and low maintenance.
See, that's where I had a couple clients I've turned away because I'm like, you have no dream. You have no, not only do you have no dream, but you have no dream of the industry, right? And if they just want to sell more tires or more lipstick, I am not your gal. Like,
well, see,
unless there's a dream tied to selling
Sure.
more tires, and I'm like, I could probably maybe get excited about that.
Well, and that's like sign X, start with Y. Yeah, if you don't have a reason why, but the thing is, everybody has a reason. You know what? You can do anything in the world. Why are you doing this thing?
But they're not all good things or good reasons. In terms of success in the marketplace, right? They may be good for them, but not.
That takes spin.
Yeah.
I'm a master of spin. Everything has a perspective to a person. If you can tell the story right and make it relevant and heartfelt, everything has a perspective.
Yeah. Would you say that most of your clients have communities that they're connected to?
Not really. Right now, actually, my clients are small. They're trying to build. They don't know exactly what they want to build yet, but they're starting somewhere. And so I at least help them go, all right, well, here's a vision we can build for what you want to build, but okay, bring out your chart again.
So imagine you've got, I don't know, an expert client here, or maybe they're over here. Imagine like 6 circles around that. That's how I visualize community. It's like all these Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups and chamber groups, or even Coffee for Creatives. Okay, there's 5 or 8 people every Thursday that, if that's your audience,
I love coffee. By the way, I love Coffee for Creatives. That was that's such a fun little thing.
It is fun. I started that when I joined InSpark because I used to have good coffee rituals with someone else, and now it was like, I need to have coffee with someone. I need to talk about my creative ideas because I just love perspectives, and it's been really fun just seeing who shows up and the artists, and we've had financial planners, we've had all sorts of people that are like...
I love that idea because a lot of people want to bounce ideas off of other people, especially creative people who... Again, a lot of education kills the creative process. It kills that unconscious mind and the ability to come up with ideas out of the whatever that is. So having the ability to bounce stuff off of people is brilliant.
I love it because there'll be 4 or 5 designers some days, or maybe 2 or 3 designers, and I'm like, what do you think of this? And they'll tell me. You know, sometimes they celebrate me, but oftentimes it's like, well, have you thought about this? Because I do some design work, but I don't consider myself a designer per se.
Even then, it's just getting other people's opinion, getting feedback, getting outside yourself.
I used to call myself an idea manager.
I love it.
I have to manage the ideas, and then we just test on social a lot of the time. Will this work? Does anybody care? But sometimes, like, you gotta...
I don't think they do. That's my... I know that's really pessimistic, and I'm trying to shift that.
But here's the thing. So say it's a big, brilliant idea, and you're right now talking to 3 people, or 10 people, or even 100. What if all of these people over here care? You just haven't found them yet. And that's the thing. It's like, if your ideas are worthy for the industry, not just for your neighborhood, you need to get through multiple communities to really find out who are those movers and shakers, who are those decision makers, who are the ones that can really drive
How do you do that?
idea forward. You work with someone like me.
That's why I'm asking you. How do you do that?
Yeah, well, and that's why I get super strategic with this audience matrix, because it's like, okay, like I've got a list of over 1.5 million people on Facebook categorized in about 80 different Facebook groups. So if you want a community of people, I probably know where they are. Because I've been listening, and some of the groups are a little bit archaic, and some are brilliant and fascinating, and there's really cool stuff happening every day online. And Yeah.
And
So,
see, this kind of goes back
but
to
how do you get to them, and how
Yeah,
do you
see-
build a relationship? You can't just go drop your link. You know, you've got to create bonds and experiences and momentum. And that's why I don't do a 1 month program for people. So,
Yeah. Makes sense.
I'll go to bat for you, but I gotta
All right, so
figure out where to go to bat first.
So how much do you charge?
So it ranges.
Roughly, I'm sure. If you can give ballparks.
I would say for the case of the internet, I'll say 700 to 2,700. Everything's customizable.
Per week? Per day?
Per month, right? So if you're looking at basically 10,000 to 24,000 for the year.
Okay.
Right? So
That's really not bad.
It's not. It's
That's
very
fantastic.
doable. It is.
When you consider that that's an investment, and with your expertise, that investment doubles, triples, quadruples, hextuples
Yep.
on the other side.
Absolutely.
That is an amazing cost.
Yep. And then so within that, I usually get one video a month, at least, sometimes more. But in video doesn't sound like it hits the first month. Like with yours, you're going to see traction two years from now. These videos, like the one with you and your wife, it'll get traction. More people will find it. If you do SEO and keywords, it'll rank, and the good ones will move. And that's where it's like I tell people, not only will you get the videos, but the compound effect over time is so valuable. But if you just have one video there, what's the chances of that being the best one that the internet's going to love? Right, it changes.
Well, sorry, the internet is so fickle.
Very true. But I do have a referral program, so if someone were to bring me, say, a larger client project, 10%. Right? So if you know someone or three someones...
That is very generous of you.
It's very generous. But part of what I would ask...
But see, and I got to state that because a lot of people are like, oh my god, this is so much money, and oh my god, this is all this. Okay, that's a lot of like downpour mindset, because you got to understand, like, companies that invest in this stuff hardcore are spending hundreds of millions of dollars.
Huge amounts. I'm probably undercharging. But I support the dreamer, and if there's not a dream, well, there are other agencies out there. But the reason I do that is I want you to participate as it grows, right? Whoever that person is, I want you to comment, I want you to share art, there's a little bit of ask in there.
Sure.
If there's someone you care about, it's gonna be no problem. But that is the trick. Brands that people care about. That's where a lot
Okay. If nobody cares, you don't have a brand. You just have a business.
Okay.
That's the whole point. Like, if you haven't spent the time to create the emotions in whoever you're speaking with, the connection, so that something, like, they're drawn to you in some way.
Yeah.
Okay. Marketing has done this whole thing of push, yell, scream, clog up.
How do we pull?
Well, that's just it. Marketing has bogged everybody down. But a brand requires interest. It requires that leaning in, that intrigue. And that's why branding took off, because branding creates that intrigue.
Yeah, our LAF Tech brand, I'll have to have you check it out online. It's the experiences we create for people and the emotion, like the joy. It starts with fear, but the joy and the confidence that comes from it, it's been fascinating. I've been able to see, because like even Dreamosity, I mean, it's been hard for me to brand it in the sense that most of my clients, they don't want to be on social media. They don't want to get in the knee deep of it, right? That's me. I go to bat for them. But with LAF Tech, the clients and the experiences, it's been really fun to see that brand grow from an idea, right? And that's where, with Financial Joy, I talk a lot about how do you take an idea and turn it into money. Can you take this idea and make 20 grand? Can you make 100 grand? Can you... and that's what entrepreneurship is. But a lot of people don't think in that spatial way. It's like once they realize, oh, this idea might actually be, something I could brand, or a business, or even just a cool community.
Sure. How many people are stuck by fear for a long time?
Too many. We want to get them to have fun. Humor heals, that's what I always say.
Amen to that.
Yeah. I tend to be more serious and have to think about humor. Some people just, you teach them a couple tips and they're just off. It's amazing. Although I wish I could help some of the comedians I know care more about the why, right? Like, less about the state of angst and pain. It's like, well, what if you could, use humor for good, you know? And so, some of them do, a lot of them do. Do you go into your clients talking about, like, how do you shift a brand message? Like how many comedians do you think of? You're like, oh, they're heroes. Not many, right?
I don't get it. Try again.
Like, you don't think of a comic generally as they're so valuable to our community. Like, I don't know. How do you? Let me ask you this: when you think of a comedian, what do you think?
I think of stand-up. I think of like Comedy Central and HBO specials.
Mm-hmm. Do you watch it a lot? Or do you kind of like it?
I used to. At some point, I think I fell out of the target demographic, and the stuff that is really funny and promoted right now is not my taste.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, how do you get funny stuff for really intellectual people who care about, say, the arts or design or
but see,
business?
On the flip side of that, comedy is super important for the world.
Absolutely.
Because comedy, frankly, in my opinion, is based in pain.
Yeah.
And the people that are up on stage have experienced some shit.
Yeah.
And they've gone through it, and their perspective is funny because they've analyzed their life and they're gone, this is crappy. We're living in a crappy time. Yeah. My life was crappy. I've dealt with some shit. You shouldn't have to do with this. Come laugh with me. Yeah. It's not worth lingering on it. Let's be together and heal.
See, and that's where the last part, let's be together and heal, not all of them, they're in the anger, right? They're in the pain. And so, and we have a pretty sophisticated audience in terms of our, public speakers or the people in our workshops. Like, they're corporate, clean in general, which is tricky to find that comic blend.
Yeah.
But it's like, at the same time, these corporate people, they need to loosen up. They need to rant. They need a place to bitch, because they don't, their boss is asking them, all right, tell me every problem about this thing. How can I, like, that's not what the leaders are saying.
Yeah.
But how cool would it be if they were? I don't know. It's fun. It brings me a lot of joy.
That's fantastic.
Even if they're totally ranting. Look, I almost finished the thing.
Beep, beep.
Or does it go this way?
I don't know. It's up to you.
It's so pretty.
You know what? That's the thing about art. Which
way does it go?
So, funny story. I once did a piece that hung in the Phoenix State Capitol for a year.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was a whole bunch of self-portraits from the classes I was part of. And what happened was I did this self-portrait on one side and I hated it, so I flipped the piece of paper over and I scribbled a self-portrait because I was just so angry at the idea of having to do a self-portrait. And for the whole year, they hung the wrong side. They hung the scribble side out. And
that's ironic.
It's however it needs to be to create the impact that is most felt for somebody else to me.
Sure. That's funny. So I just realized.
So that's an hour.
I technically have a webinar I'm late for.
That's okay, we'll turn this off. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed coloring.
It's so pretty.
I managed to get one leg done.
Nice.
Nearly.
Nice. Well, we'll have to do it again and talk about all the other cool things there are to talk about.
Yeah.
I like the coloring.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Everyone, I hope you enjoyed Coloring with Jeremy. Every episode, we're going to bring you interviews full of insight, new perspectives, and interesting people. If you'd like to be on the show, please email me at jeremy@thinktankcreative.studio. It's in the description below. I want to learn about your work, your life, and your beliefs. I'd love to hear tips and tricks that help you succeed in your business. Maybe one single tip will change someone's life, save their house, or wake them up from a depression cycle. To join me on this path, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to learn more about my work and the classes I teach, click the links below. Thanks.